Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're in the kitchen again and we are going to make a cake. We are going to make a basic white cake. This is different than the basic yellow cake that I have done previously because this one uses only egg white, not egg yolk. So you want to start by heating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we're going to grab some eggs. We're going to have to separate the eggs, okay? Because in these eggs, we only want the whites, not the yolks. So the easiest way to separate your eggs is, believe it or not, get yourself a bowl that has a fairly stiff bottom, nice hard glass or plastic. Don't use metal. It's not good for egg white to be in contact with metal. But drop from a decent height. That was not the best drop in the world, but that's okay. And I dropped a shell in there because I'm an idiot. There we go. And then you just scoop your yolk out, let the white drip off, just like so. Put the yolk in a separate bowl, put the white in a bowl that you're keeping, and get another egg. We're going to do that 5 times, okay? And then crack it. Get rid of the shell, don't need that. Grab your yolk, let the white drip off, and put that in a bowl. White in the smaller bowl. Now, we don't have to get rid of the yolks. We can, in fact, keep the yolks and make something else. In my case, I actually need the yolks because I have baby chicks that have hatched. And baby chicks do really well if you give them scrambled egg yolk. So I'm actually going to use the egg yolk for my baby chicks. And the egg white is going to be used in this cake. So this is egg number 4. Nice smack. Scoop out. And yes, your hands get a little gooey. That's okay. We don't mind that. Let go. There we go. Yolk. 1 more for a total of 5. Ready, white. Okay. Don't need the shell. Last time, and I did get a little bit of shell in that one because if you've watched my baking videos before, you know I'm really quite bad at keeping the shell out of my eggs. That's why I crack in a separate bowl. Okay. Get rid of the little bowl. And I'm going to pause the video now so I can wash my hands. Alright, so we have separated our yolks and our whites. Now what we're going to do is, you can do whatever you want with the yolks. Maybe you're making a pound cake, doesn't matter. Set them aside. You will not use them for this recipe. And you're also going to set your whites aside because you don't actually need those right this second. It's just good to separate them before you start. Alright, so we're going to get ourselves a mixing bowl. Okay, just our mixing bowl that fits on here. There we go. We are going to lower our beater into position. There we go. And I am using the Bosch Compact 400 watt kitchen machine. Love this guy. I absolutely love this guy. He's fantastic. I'll put a link to him in the description. I really prefer this over traditional mixers just because it does such a good job. The blade here is angled so it gets up on your sides fairly well. Not perfectly, but it does a fairly good job. So because it does such a good job, I am going to recommend it and put a link in the description to it. So now we need to start adding our ingredients. What we're going to do is we are going to put our flour, 2 cups of flour. There we go. Get rid of that bowl. We are going to put 1.5 cups of sugar. And yeah, just put it all in the bowl. Get rid of that bowl. We are going to put 3 teaspoons of baking powder, not soda, powder. Half a teaspoon of salt. Doesn't matter what kind of salt, that's table salt. But you could use a kosher or sea salt or whatever you've got on hand. Doesn't really matter. We are going to add 1 cup of milk. I'm using 2% milk. This will work perfectly well with whole milk, not a big deal. Do not use 1%, it'll be a little too watery. This cake doesn't turn out great if you substitute with water, so not fantastic. So you probably want to stick with a nice 2% or a whole milk. Now we want half a cup of, it could be butter, it could be margarine, it could be shortening, doesn't really matter as long as it's softened. So it turns out best with butter, but it's not the end of the world if you use shortening or margarine. Not a big deal at all. Just make sure it has softened before you use it. Now that is not all of our ingredients, but we are going to turn it on and mix it up. Okay, once it's moistened, we're going to want to turn on the mixer for 1 to 2 minutes, somewhere in there, just to make sure it kind of gets nice and incorporated. But before you do that, take your rubber spatula and just scrape off the sides, because what happens, even with this beautiful bowl, is you end up with some flour riding up on the sides and you don't get it all incorporated. So get that down in there, scrape that off on the beater. There we go. And then turn it on for 1 to 2 minutes at medium speed. So it should look like that. Your batter should have track marks in it, basically, from your beater. And that's how you know it's done pretty well, pretty close to ready. So we have 2 more ingredients to add. And one of them is about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. If you'd like to change up the flavor, you could use a maple or an almond. Remember, if you're using almond, you want to cut it by a little. Almond is very, very strong. So I'm using about a teaspoon of vanilla. You can change it up for a different extract. Try orange, try maple, they're all really good. We're also going to take our 5 egg whites and we're going to add them in. And you're going to just dump them in all at once because it doesn't really matter that much. So dump your 5 egg whites in there. Just dump it in. There you go. Now we're going to turn that on and we're going to beat it for about another 1 to 2 minutes thereabouts. You want it to look really good and incorporated. So turn your mixer on. Again, roughly medium speed. Why is there always a dog barking? Anyway, turn it on to about medium speed for 1 to 2 minutes. All right, when it looks a bit like that, you are ready. So now we need to prep our pans. You can do this before or after, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna pull back here so I can get my pans. You're gonna want 2 round pans, either 8 or 9 inch, doesn't matter. The difference between 8 and a 9 inch is not big enough to cause you any real concern when it comes to baking. If you use a 9 inch, you might have to bake it for an additional 2 minutes. It doesn't really matter that much. So 8 or 9 inch, whatever you got or whatever you like. You're going to take that and you need to prepare your pans to prevent sticking. So what we're going to do, I'm using just a canola oil cooking spray. Be pretty generous because you don't want your cake sticking. There we go. There we go. Nice and generous there. I may sneeze, so forgive me if I have to step away from the camera for a minute because I don't want to sneeze on the dough. So your batter, lift your guy up and just let him drip off for a minute because you want as much of that batter as you can get. Very nice batter. It is delicious batter. And if you're anything like me, you can just grab a little bowl and stick it under there to catch any extra drippings. I'm not cleaning all that off right now. I'm just not doing it. So now what you want to do is divide your dough in half. Half in one pan, half in the other. Be a little bit careful with the first one. You don't want to overfill. So underfill the first one, then skip over to the second pan and fill that one till about halfway. And then if you have a little extra, there we go, you can put it in the original one. So actually, no, I don't. Because this has to go in here. A little bit extra, not a ton. But get as much of that dough out of your bowl as you can. You want as much of your batter as possible to get into your pans. Okay, there we go. All right, set the bowl aside. You don't need it anymore. So these guys, you want to give them a shake to flatten them. And then you want to tap them. I know it's annoying, lots of tapping. You want to tap for about 2 to 3 minutes. That gets the air bubbles to come out and up into the surface. I'm not going to make you watch tapping because it's really annoying. But tap for 2 to 3 minutes. Then you're going to bake these in your 350-degree oven for 30 to 35 minutes. So you want to check for doneness by inserting a toothpick. It should come out clean, or just look around the edges and see if they've separated from the pan. When the edges are brown and it's separated from the pan, it's probably done. So you look around your edges. If it's separated, you're probably okay, or you dip a toothpick in the middle. If it comes out pretty dry, you're also okay. So let's pop those in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes, then we'll be back. All right, our cakes are cooked. As you can see, the edges of the cake are browned and they pulled away from the edges of the pan. That typically means your cakes are done. So we have let them cool on a wire rack for 10 minutes. That just helps them set so that when you take them out of the pans, they don't fall apart. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flip our pans. There we go. You can either leave them like that, or I'm actually going to turn them over because I just like them cooling this direction. It doesn't matter. You can leave them face down. It really doesn't matter. So again, come on. There we go. Youch! Still hot after 10 minutes. So you're going to want to let these cool completely before you try to frost them. Typically you'll frost them with a thin layer of icing between the layers. Put the layers on top of each other, then frost the outside, and then decorate to your heart's content. But they do need to be 100% cool. If you want a good frosting to pair with this, there is a browned buttercream frosting that goes particularly well with this simple white cake. So give that a try. You will find a link to it in the video description. But that is about it for us tonight. If you do want to watch me decorate a cake, I'm going to have to disappoint you right this second because I'm really bad. So I'm just baking it. I will show you the frosting recipe, which I already did, and I will link to it. Otherwise, you're just going to have to live with disappointment. I'm really bad at decorating cakes. Maybe I'll record 1 or 2 videos of me decorating poorly, but we'll have to see. I hope you enjoyed making simple white cake with us today here at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.